As Yu-Gi-Oh gets more complicated, it can be difficult to look at a freshly pulled card and know whether it's for the bulk bin or competitive gold. Yu-Gi-Oh is unique among its card game compatriots in that it does not have a rotation system. Rotation refers to when cards are only allowed for a certain period of time, such as in the Pokemon trading card game where cards rotate out of standard play after about 3 years or so. This means that the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh's card pool must be considered when thinking of deck building applications. My name is Avery, and this is a bit of a different discussion video today where I want to talk about the overall card design of Yu-Gi-Oh! And to a degree, how it's slowly dying and how the recent discussions of players saying that the game is dying have been able to influence this. So I hope you enjoy this different type of video, and let's get on into it. And don't forget to destroy the ever-living boo-boo stain off of that like and subscribe button. Let's dive on into it, shall we? Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it is your host with the most, Avery LR32 here. I hope y'all are having a fantastic day. Sit back and relax as I have this freshly written script ready to record. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for all of the love and support on this channel. So let's check back to the basics for a moment. Monster cards are comprised of 6 factors: name, attribute, level, type, effect, and stats. Monster cards are by far the most complicated to rank, as spell and trap cards just do what they say. Out of these 6 factors, only level, effect, and stats tell you everything without the context of other cards. As such, the arduous journey to understanding competitive viability starts with factor staples. Now, factor staples are cards that in my mind, I say generically apply to one of the 6 card factors. For example, Rhoda makes every warrior type monster in the game better, as you have an effective 4 copies of them and one card that represents all level 4 or lower warriors in one. But that's just the tip of the whole discussion. A less straightforward example includes levels when it comes to extra deck options. Let's say level 8 synchros are all the rage. By proxy, level 3 and 4 tuners are more valuable due to level 5 and 4 non-tuners being quite common. Other cards that recontextualize levels are Xyz monsters and cards like Trade-In and Sacred Sword of 7 Stars. This gets further complicated with the inclusion of Link monsters. In modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, or as we talked about before, postmodern, depending on who you are, many of these monsters are Link 1s, meaning they only need one specific type of monster. For example, Fiendsmith Requiem, which I would argue is one of the most broken Link monsters in the game currently, only requires a Light Fiend monster. This means Moon of the Closed Heaven, a generic Link 2 Light Fiend, creates a bridge between any 2 monsters and Requiem. This gives value to any card that can create 2 monsters on the field, which is hardly an intuitive standard to judge cards by nowadays. Similar to how back in, TOS format, when basically any 2 things equaled full Orcus combo, so people just made jokes about how ketchup and mustard was full Orcus combo. But the bridges don't stop there. Let's look at our inconspicuous friend, Dippity, which was hilarious to see people's reaction when that card first came out and I was playing Primite and I would go activate Primite Roar called Dippity and they didn't know what I was talking about. Looking at its card anatomy, we can see it's a Light Fiend monster, so it can be used to summon Requiem. But it has an overlooked attribute, being a normal monster. This can be capitalized on with, as I just mentioned, Primite cards like Primite Lordly Load and facilitate the use of Primite Drill Beam. While starting a Fiendsmith combo, in essence, Fiendsmith Requiem enables Dippity to be good, and as such, the Primite engine also gets better as a result. Similarly to how cards don't exist in a vacuum in regards to the cards around them, cards also exist within a competitive environment. At the time of its release, Dark Ruler No More became an instant staple due to the high volume of Omni-Negate boards, combinations of monsters with negation effects that would render your entire turn useless, i.e. something like Baronet de Fleur or Borreload Savage Dragon. A card that could break this board instantly was just what was needed. However, board breaking has changed shapes since then. Either boards focus more on a sustainable grind game, disruption is focused more on the hand with cards like Molchami Fualos, any of the Molchamis for that matter, or interaction has been diversified with searchable trap interaction. Dark Ruler No More started as a great card, then lessened in impact over time. Perhaps we could say that cards can't be wholly judged as, quote, good or bad, but rather judged within its time frame. Let's take a look at the iconic Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, which I talked about extensively in my Blackwing retrospective video Shameless plug. By today's standards, having the attack points of an opponent's monster is kind of dog water. But when you look at one of the most popular threats at the time, Stardust Dragon in Edison format, it starts to tell a different story. Alongside its condition to special summon itself if you control a Blackwing monster, Gale was way ahead of its time and got limited as a result. And speaking of archetypes, of course, the easiest way to find out if a card is good is judging how much synergy it has with its own deck. As I talked about in my post-modern discussion video that blew up like crazy, and I still don't know why it did, again, shameless plug, True Light is a powerful card in the Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, but it's a trap card, so normally it would be too slow to consider. But then, of course, you get Maiden of White, a monster that can send itself to the graveyard to activate True Light from the hand or deck. Within its archetypal context, True Light is more of a continuous or quick play spell rather than a trap card. In the same way, Blue Eyes White Dragon itself is a card that can't be judged outside of its archetypal context. I mean, it's a level 8 normal monster, so there has to be more than meets the eye. Putting together the effects of True Light and Maiden of White reveals a whole new setup. Off of just the latter card, you get a level 1 tuner, a level 8 body, and a continuous grinding machine. So the sky is the limit when it comes to what new ideas that Konami wants to come up with to make any card or deck viable. Now, I also want to briefly talk about the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh! And why everyone is saying it's dying, as I feel the playability cards has a small role in this. Technically, more cards are now playable than ever before, as new cards can make old cards that were bad suddenly be much better. But the issues the game currently faces is not just bad product in Duelist Alliance, where boxes are currently $30 a pop, but also the fact that the current format, which will soon have Yummy, among other decks from Justice Hunters, and in literally a month and a fucking change, have yet another new core set in Doom of Dimensions. The format is not helped by the fact that with how confusing the majority of decks are to play, as well as the power ceiling of the overall format, it makes it very hard for most people who haven't already been playing to get into the game. I've done a lot of reading of older Yu-Gi-Oh! Articles on WordPress, of all places, and have come to see the perspective of players who may not fully understand the power creep of Yu-Gi-Oh! And how things can change. A lot of people, from what research I've done, overall, they want a low barrier to entry. Something like the Trap Trick Structure deck, for example, where you could buy 3 of them, and suddenly at the time you had a decent rogue deck. Once that gets power creeped, not even including any insane price tags on new cards, people will dip out of the game. You can have all the OG cards from the past be playable with the release of new cards, but that's not going to get little Timmy, who watched the original anime, back into the game, or even into the game for the first time, when once they realize that even with this new support for old cards, those cards still suck when you compare to something like K9 Vanquish Soul or Yummy, or insert any deck name here. Which, as a now former competitive player myself, at least for the time being, sure, I'll take the free wins at a regional, but locals, I mean, like, who cares? And no, the game is not dying because of master shits. That game is awful and is a dog shit scam. Don't let these big name Yu-Gi tubers fool you, who are just the same people trying to scam you with $50+ spreadsheets. It's difficult to jump into Yu-Gi-Oh! As a beginner, and a big part of that is the missing context on what cards are good. Any aspect of the card, from its attribute, typing, stats, or even lack of effect, could be the difference between it being mediocre and an important combo bridge. Temporal context matters with cards like Dark Ruler No More, where it will flux in and out of the meta as needed, and even it seems to be currently with K9 Vanquish Soul and all this other stuff coming out that it's currently seeing play. And even cards that are considered too slow for their time can get a boost from nowhere as new archetypal support bolsters its ranks. And what deck isn't top tier when they get a Link 1 that searches their field spell? The next time you reconsider a card, remember that its meta status can change in the blink of an eye, sometimes for the better or for the worse, because even now we're getting so many releases so quickly that nothing is having time to breathe. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this bit of a different discussion video. If you did, again, be sure to like and save this video so that you can share it to other people, and be sure to subscribe. I really want to hit 2,000 subscribers sometime this year, or just even in general at this point. But guys, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.